Tonight's episode is dedicated to Jim Irsay. Whether you thought of him as the Colts owner or the ultra collector who owns some of the most iconic guitars in the world, he has sadly passed away at the age of 65. Rest in peace, Jim. I don't want to make this episode about what's going to happen to all this stuff. I think that's disrespectful. I'd like to focus this episode on the fantastic collection that he's pieced together and some of my favorites. Because he had a real passion for this stuff. He's turned down $1 billion offer for his collection before. It was going to go to Saudi Arabia, but he wanted to keep the history here. So just to give you an idea, he owns Eric Clapton's The Fool SG with its cool psychedelic paint job. And it still feels just like yesterday when we were talking about him purchasing David Gilmour's Blackstrat. This thing set all kinds of auction records. We also really followed his purchase of Neil Sean's 1977 Les Paul Pro Deluxe that was routed for the Floyd Rose and made Journey history. And there's plenty of others like Johnny Cash, Beatles memorabilia, but I feel all of these have gotten talked about enough. I want to talk about the regular guitars in his collection, starting with his 1971 Gibson Flying V Custom. This piece is particularly fascinating to me because I actually found it on Instagram once. I reached up to the shop who had it and they said, "Oh yeah, you just missed it. Jim bought it." Because this thing is fantastic. If you don't know the history of the Flying V, the early 70s, that's like when they're starting to come back. I mean, sure, they came back in late 67, but they start to change. They get this whole step up right here to them. And if I can believe what a commenter said last time, they think that started on the Medallion series. So this had to have been some sort of an experimental piece. Because to see a 1971 Flying V with binding not only on the top, but also the back, and golden hardware to boot, with the ebony fretboard and mother-of-pearl block inlay, and that's right, it also has the binding on the headstock. That's just so cool, and is certainly a holy grail collection for unique 70s Gibson era history. Because previously, the history of the Flying V custom model was believed to be around 2002 when they were introduced, but nah, it goes back a lot farther. But then he also had one of these Fender Rosewood Telecasters, my favorite Tele of all time. And it's not even necessarily for the Beatles influence. I mean, maybe that's why he had this particular one in his collection. I just think Telecasters are really cool, and I loved layered woods. And that's what these have going on. Many of them are actually chambered out, and the way that they make that possible is they laminate a little slice of maple right here so they can get into the cavities. Original 60s ones are prohibitively expensive. The 70s ones are ever so slightly more affordable, but not by much. But then they also get the cool skunk stripe being made out of maple instead of your usual walnut. And oh, that's interesting. He had a regular Pro Deluxe in his collection too? I'm curious which one came first, the Neil Sean or this one. Did he buy it as like a comparison piece just to see how much has changed in between them? The Pro Deluxe is just a pretty interesting model. We do have a review and demo, but just to sum it all up, it's a rare P90 equipped guitar at a Gibson's Norlin era that's a solid bodied Les Paul, but it also has an ebony fretboard. And then next up, he's got one of the 20th anniversary Les Paul Customs from 1974. Out of many of the anniversary model guitars, these are some of the least special because pretty much everything in 74, even some in 75 and early 76 can indeed have that inlay. Like for example, this one right here, I can tell by the tuners is most likely a 75 or later produced one because that's when they started to switch into those Gibson branded Schallers. But as long as you got the inlay, it counts. And it looks like he supports innovation. We got the 2007 Les Paul Robot. If you ever hear people complaining about robot guitars, this is the one that started it all. It was huge when it was first coming out. I was just barely getting into playing guitar. I didn't understand Gibson or any of its lore or anything like that. But I remember a family friend was looking forward to getting one of these, and I don't think he ever got it. Probably thankfully, but people like to talk about them. But this is before they had built-in effects. This one was strictly just for the tuning. You got your tuning knob there, but it's got that cool blue silver burst finish, bound ebony fretboard. It really looks like a modern-day Les Paul studio. Previously, we just always kind of thought it looked like a dressed-up studio, but Gibson's going and changing the history of studios here, but one day we need to review one. But it looks like he was also a fan of signature guitars, not necessarily owning the guitar from the artist every time. This is a 2005 created Pete Townshend Deluxe #1. Pete had many deluxe guitars with different numbers on it, but this one is #1. But this one, I can see why I picked it. They gave it the 3-piece top, which is fun, but the centerpiece just happens to have crazy flame. You get your number on it, 2 different toggle switches that line up with your knob knobs. And then he was known for putting the humbucker in between the existing mini humbuckers. Nashville-style bridge out of the custom shop, fancy strap lock system, basically like the ABR1 screws for your bridge, but just for a strap. And they even tried to reissue the larger headstock. Looking closely, it does appear that they even reissued the pancake body. I think that was before they were doing that for too many things. Yeah, sure enough. No more glare there. But whoa, look at the wood grain on the back. That's really tight and different looking before you get to your straight up maple neck with the volute. But okay, he does have some of Pete's stuff. Here's a 1964 Gibson SG Special. I didn't know he had this one because there are custom shop recreations of maybe this exact guitar or a similar one. But what I'm noticing about this one is it looks like it might have been smashed and then not good bits were just shaven down over here. That's funny. Totally on character and matches what you would expect. Looks like maybe a heel crack repair here. Unfortunately, the photos aren't the highest resolution to really take a deep look at these, but the whole point of this website is to make you go to one of the shows. As the Jim Irsay collection actually toured, he took these things all over the country and set up where people would come to see not only the guitars that he has, but also him playing. And it's not just guitars, there's also American history, pop culture, and other fun stuff. Like you want something Abraham Lincoln owned or John F. Kennedy's chair? Oh my goodness. He owns Wilson and one of the original Willy Wonka golden tickets. Yeah, when they say there's something for everybody, they really mean it. Even the Scarface script, if you're into that stuff. Even has one of Elton John's pianos. We were just talking about the Grateful Dead not too long ago and Jerry Garcia's signature guitars. There's where the tiger is. Now, I would imagine Jim is a smart guy. Just because he has left us, I bet there's a foundation that is going to keep his mission going. So I'm really hoping that it's not the end of, oh, I bet Jim Irsay's gonna buy it. He's got buyers that can act upon him. I think his legacy's gonna live on. But man, I really like the intricacy of those inlays. You can just tell they're gonna shine brightly and they were very well installed. But then you get to the back and so many different layers of wood. Beautiful quilted maple, wooden backplate, some more flowers and vines. Look at how many layers that neck has. And of course you get a back strap and all the other good stuff. But then look at this, a seemingly basic 2015 Fender Custom Shop 1960 reissue Telecaster. I wonder if there's a particular story behind why he wanted this, other than it being a beautiful blue hue, but I really like the way that those dots have aged. Works pretty nicely with our blue finish and our rosewood fretboard with our regular headstock. But whoa, okay. I was thinking maybe it was just a Lake Placid blue, but from this photo, yeah, that's a sparkly blue. That's why he wants it. Sparkle blue's just awesome in general. And check this out, an Austin Les Paul signed by The Who. I've kind of forgotten about these things. I've come close to buying one of these before, but now that I have more knowledge and information on Les Pauls, I see it now. Sharp Florentine cutaway, that's kind of fun. We've got a goofy nose or boot pick guard with all of our other usual knockoff stuff, but hey, it was signed by a famous band. And we have a headstock that's close enough to what people would want on a Les Paul. Oh, and you know people like bolt-on necks. But if you're curious how big his collection was, they do have a nice little rundown here. If you add that all up, it's about 284 instruments. But you gotta remember, we're not talking $2,000 things, we're talking millions. But from the next batch I'm seeing, he's got one of those really old Martins. I like the headstock on that. That's interesting. And then in comparison to that, a super ultra fancy art guitar from 2004. But of course, no collection's complete without a 57 Les Paul Jr. in TV yellow. That one's got some really nice neck wear on it. You can tell somebody enjoyed playing that one quite a bit. But whoa, look how freakily low that is. I think that's just the bridge style he has on there that makes it look crazier, because normally they're slanted and that eats up some of the space, but this one is purposefully compensated. That's why it looks so strange. But now this one, I feel is just a real legacy piece. Perfectly encapsulates him. An Arctic white Les Paul Studio. These things are fantastic because they retain the ebony fretboard while all the other colors did not. Now again, nowadays, ebony fretboard on a Les Paul Studio is not necessarily special anymore, but there's something about the 2000s and early 90s studios. They just have a different thing to them. They will always be special to me. But this must have been part of a small custom batch, or maybe even a one-off of a Super Bowl game, and it looks like all the different players ended up signing it. But did they only sign the top? Yeah, the back? You've got no problem still playing that one. I was about to say, not only did he get a Gibson done that way, but a Fender, but then no, apparently this is a Tom Madden 2007-ish parts caster thing. But to be fair, this actually looks like it's decently spec'd out. You got a couple of, DiMarzio hot rails or similar equipped in it. And I like the blue and white color scheme. Then you've got this really ashy looking rosewood fretboard with what appears to maybe be abalone inlays. But did they continue the color scheme on the back? Yes. Nice. I actually do like that, even if it's not your traditional shape. But does anybody else see a creepy face out of this? Like, there's its mouth and there's an eye and his other eye's like covered by hair. And then this is his nose. And something about having an acoustic guitar on your electric guitar is funny to me. But oh, there we go. We do have real Fenders. Here's a 2006 Super Bowl Strat. Of course, we've got our signatures on there, but this is really deluxe and posh. You've got your golden hardware. Nice creamy pickguard. Then we've got some additional inlay work up here. Can't quite make out what it says, but that is a gorgeous rosewood fretboard. It appears to maybe be a Mexican-made Fender, if we can judge correctly by our truss rod cover, or a Japanese. Oh, and there's another Les Paul Studio. This one hasn't yellowed quite as much and has a slightly different logo to it. And oh, wow. Signed by Steve Miller, 2015 Fender Deluxe Player Stratocaster. Take a second to appreciate everything we've got going on here. We've got a rope binding effect for our pickguard. That might have just been done by painting blue and white on the edge. But then normally I'm not the biggest fan of tortoiseshell pickguards, but that works really well, especially with the white plastics and gold trim everywhere else. And Steve really took his time to make this thing fancy. But even if you don't care about the Colts branding and all that, look underneath. You've got some pretty tasty wood grain right there. I'd imagine that might be an ash body. But then, look, is this the hardest guitar to play or what? I thought this was just a bunch of random dots like trying to look like a football play or something, but now I see it. We still have the regular dots in between. They're like a yellowish material. But then Steve just added a bunch of other white dots to confuse people. That's cool. Oh, and he even did some more fun things on the back. Going to the Super Bowl on the headstock. And uh-oh, somebody's got to call Slash. They're stealing his Scully. Abracadabra. And pointing over here, 2020 Super Bowl. That was but a mere taste of all the guitars. Feel free to go to this website and you can check out more. The idea of this episode is not to show everything. I want you to support them as well. And my condolences to the family. And rest in peace, Jim. You're a lasting legacy in the guitar community. Thank you.